Assuming this thing works. So I hope that the thing works. Alrighty, let's hope it works. What's going on, guys? Weaver, John C., Roseman, California. This is May 31st, 2021, and it is about 3 after in the morning, Pacific Standard Time, Monday. A very somber Memorial Day weekend. You know, this weekend has been challenged, and certain concepts have been challenged a great deal. What's been happening is our democratic system that we had theoretically cherished for as old as our colonies have started themselves as a theoretical country. When they first drafted Articles of Confederation and then the incomplete Constitution of the United States of America. At this point, our country has never been so threatened by itself, except in the fact of the Civil War that happened in 1860, where we had to ask ourselves something. Not exactly if slavery was the most important issue, but what was important to a country. Having a divided aggregate of states to call themselves a confederation to leave the Union or try to have a complete country, even though we had division in itself, but we were still one country. A lot of people were fighting for slavery. Everyone else was trying to fight to keep the country together, while others wanted a separate confederation of sorts in the South. And that mindset has been all along in our current republic, one way or another. The theoretical GOP, grand old party, was supposed to be Lincoln's party and then Reagan's party. And now it's the Trump party. They consider what they call the big lie, the fallacy that the Democrats have been putting out because we are the evil leftists right now, and the rightist extremes are the truth tellers. There was never an insurrection on January 6th, just only peaceful tourists. According to a few Congress people have been trying to tell people about that one. And Donald Trump should have been the president of the United States, not Joe Biden. Despite the fact we had certifications in every state of what the ballot systems in every state were telling us. Every one of them certified and corrected. And one last official ceremonial count of the major numbers in every state to be done at the U.S. Capitol. And then we get the insurrection by an outgoing president who has too much power in his head and deemed his followers as his army to go after people left and right. And then we had the insurrection, we had the death, we had the rebellion going on. We had the Civil War. And we still have the Civil War ongoing. The media has been going insane over this, splitting themselves apart in different areas, two different camps. Was it a lie? Was it not a lie, the election? Was the last election a lie or not? The last election, there was proof that there was conspiracies, there was foreign interference, And then we had Trump coming in, and then nobody could investigate this thing because everything got shut down in Congress. So, investigating July, the January incident in Congress, the senators said on that. So here we are now. We've got the war going on. This Memorial Weekend is supposed to be celebrating the dead. So what did the dead die for? What was the point of Memorial Day weekend? What was the point of the memorial holidays? What was the point in our veteran holidays that we had out there celebrating those who are alive and dead? What's the point of July 4th? All of our patriotic holidays that we deemed it of value are now in question. Because anything regarding our democratic process is in jeopardy and in question. So any one of those holidays would be held in contempt and also held in question. Are they valid or not? What did the greatest generation die for? Not die from, die for. If anybody can answer these questions truthfully, I'd like to know. Because I'm getting flip-flop from everybody. And I'm getting answer over here and answer over there, answer here, answer, and basically, we're confused as a country. We're confused. We don't know what the hell's going on anymore. It doesn't matter what the teachers have been telling us or the books we've been reading these days. They're flip-flopped. Who's correct and who's not correct? What was our core values in the first place? And what are our core values today? They called our Constitution the Great Experiment. Well, yeah, it is an experiment. It was an incomplete document that had an amendment process in it to add more amendments to it to hopefully make our country go. And our country was also called a Great Experiment because people didn't really think that our democracy would hold. Democracy was a great idea at the time. We didn't have royalty. We didn't have fealty. We did have loyalty. Was that also considered fealty? Did we consider the President of the United States as fealty as a peasant to a king? Is that what it is today, right now? Because that's how it's feeling. One guy gets in office that nobody expects, and he demands a hell of a lot of fealty from everybody. Everybody has to love this guy. Well, now a lot of people love this guy, and they believe his bullshit. We had reality happen in front of us. We have current politicians who are saying that Biden's not a president, Trump's still president. You even got one politician who wants an armed rebellion. He keeps misquoting the Second Amendment. He keeps quoting this out, and other representatives are backing him up. They all believe in the QAnon. Oh, and try this one. How about the religious aspect of it? Christian nationalists. You ever heard of those? Christians have to be nationalists. Says it's ring somewhat familiar concerning about 1930s. Because if it doesn't, if our grandparents are still alive, you have to ask them. And yes, even though I say speak, I Google. Because I want to show something to you. What they call the Bill of Rights. I'm going to turn this around. This is from the archive.gov. This is from the National Archive. Okay? I should put this in the damn comments. So, I'm just going to show this to you. I'm going to put this in the comments. See that? Second Amendment. Read this out loud. Hell. Hold on. Hold on. My mistake. You got it? Get a screenshot? Okay, so what did it say? The Second Amendment protects the right to keep and bear arms. According to what that says. Right to keep and bear arms. Alright, well, then I have to list always double check things, you know? Why? Why not? Okay. This is from the hrlibrary.umm.edu. But this is still part of the Constitution of the United States. Now that was just generalized. This is from the Constitution itself. Read it. Screenshot it. You got it? Good. Okay. A well-regulated militia, comma, being necessary to the security of a free state, comma, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, comma, shall not be infringed. That's from the U.S. Constitution of the United States, written when it was created a long time ago. It hasn't changed in any amendment that we have. Zero. I'll read that again. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This was created when we had British soldiers telling the colonists they could not have guns. The soldiers could have guns, but you as a peasant could not. Or you as a shopkeeper could not. Or you as a sailor could not. Because we say so. We are the British government, and we're telling you, you can't have anything. You can't bring arms against us. You can't have a militia. You can't defend anything. Because we say so. We say so. What happened? We got our guns. And in the process, in a long string of events, we managed to convince the British government, one way or another, that they weren't going to hold us as colonies any longer. We're going to be seen as a country, a fledgling country, but a country nevertheless. A government system for our own government, not for the British, but for us, the theoretical United States of America. But we really didn't call ourselves United States of America until we actually finished the Civil War in 1864, when everyone else was trying to scratch their heads after a hell of a body count. That we tore each other apart over our idealism, over what it is to be an American. What was it meant to be free? What was it meant to be a free person? regardless of skin color, race, or religion, or creed. This is what our ancestors fought over. World War II happened because of mistakes made in World War I. One country decided to have an assassination attempt over another one, over a leader. And somehow either got botched or it didn't. But it got started a massive global war because the countries allied to this country or that country or this country or that country decided to go over Europe in different areas, in different lines. And when it was over, we had to force one of the countries who started the whole damn thing, one of them, to do the same thing that the British was trying to do to the American colonies, if you want to look at it at that point of view. The German people were beaten, humiliated. They lost. A calculated risk over a damn assassination attempt, don't you think? One country was trying to kill off another person. King of Prussia was trying to kill off another one, and it didn't work. Not because Germany was in it. The people had to suffer because of the economic conditions we had to force upon it, Europe and America. And that fueled a lot of anger, a lot of hatred towards everybody afterwards. Because of someone's stupid act that led up to the World War II. Because enter one particular fanatic who whipped up an entire country, or whipped up enough of it, to get an industry going, to get a fanatical party going, to blame a religion at the same time, and who wanted to conquer the world as punishment. Of course, he tried to, as one little asshole would try to make nice with a few countries along the way, little incentives for them to join. But really, it was his show. So we had Europe up and down the coastline, subjugated under him. I could use this guy's name like crazy. But I'm not going to give the dignity to that son of a bitch anyway. And because of that situation, because of that anger and hatred, and a lot of people dying under his boots, under his army's jackboots, having concentration camps, labor camps, death camps. His name is synonymous with evil. Along with another president and those followers right now, as it is, a former president and the current congressional folks, who are following this guy to the letter. They have sworn fealty, just like what's happened in Nazi Germany back in the 1930s, when Germany was trying to struggle for its survival after making a terrible, costly mistake in a terrible, costly war, had decided to damn near destroy the country. This guy decided to bring up its national patriotism, its national pride, bring it to life, and then tell the other people with a finger sticking in its air, go fuck yourselves, world, I'm coming after your ass. And I blame you for everything that happened. And I had to tell you something, but if we had the Treaty of Versailles a little loosened restriction on them, they might have been rebuilding maybe to a different Germany that hopefully didn't kick everyone else's ass. But the problem is, it did. So now, we're dealing with the repercussions of that. In World War II, we had resistance, and we had other countries saying, it may have been made a mistake, but what you've done is a hell of a lot worse. We're going to say no. America finally got off its dead collective ass because it didn't want to be involved with any other wars. It had enough. It had enough with every other damn police action in the world. We felt we were the police force of the world. So fuck it. Our own interpretation of it. We had our own issues with our own economic situations we're barely getting out of. And then we had the war in the Pacific and we had the war in Europe. It taxed and cost nearly every country that was at each other's throats. Finally, this is just boiling it down, you understand. When there was so much death, and so much pain and misery, and the countries are still smoking from all the damn damage we did to each other, and the little shitster's dead by a damn bullet to his brain, coward. Then the reparations to a starving country and a few other countries of whatever resources we could scrounge and gather. And plundering happened from other countries. The lessons of those terrible wars we had for World War I and World War II are upon us because they were challenging government systems, and not to mention challenging us at the same time. At one time, the Japanese had called the Americans the sleeping dragon. Well, they may have had a reputation back then, but these days, I'm wondering. When I look back at the veterans that had died in all these damn wars well before me, when I could think about some of the relatives that I had served in the military in World War I, II, Korea, the Vietnam, and the Gulf, I shake my head because I'm wondering what the hell were they fighting for. Back in Vietnam, they had anti-war protesters going on because they didn't believe in the police action that was going on. Well, some people called it a police action. It was actually called a war. We brought a war to a country, and then we had to sue for peace. We didn't want the communist scare. We didn't want the red tide. We didn't want any of that to hit the shores of the United States, even though we had it inside of us. But there was no armed rebellions. There was no tanks in the street. There were no people going to each other's doors, banging on them and saying, you're going to believe in this party or else. We didn't have that. But we also didn't have anybody subverting the electoral process, trying to tell people that this is right and this is bullshit. We didn't have the great big lie, but we did have fear-mongering because of certain countries out there deciding to change their formats of government that the United States could not deal with one way or another. They couldn't deal with it economically or politically, and if it wasn't democratic, we didn't want to deal with it at all. We considered them the enemy because we were taught and pushed on that one. Now, you might call me a subversive at this point over here. You might call me a big communist or a socialist because you think I'm pushing the big red scare down your throat and I'm a communist now. I have a communist manifesto, so I'm following that. No. I'm saying the information that has been presented to me in history books from both sides. What the professors at liberal colleges have been teaching people left and right. Not conservative, liberal. I am liberal minded. I value knowledge, but I also value if there's a conflict that there has to be room for improvement in our knowledge base. So if someone says, no, that's not right, well, then let's hear your evidence and show your evidence. And all I keep hearing is, this said and that said. No, I want to know the evidence, not someone else's hearsay either. If it's been documented, if it's been recorded, if it's been verified, that's what we're going to be looking at. Not someone's he said, she said, he said, she said, because this theory said so. Because this conspiracy theory said so. I'm going to remind you folks, this is a Memorial Weekend, okay? We got July 4th coming up where we're supposed to be celebrating our nation's independence, but we do not have independence. We don't have the independence because we are killing ourselves one way or another. We are still locked in a civil war that nobody's talking about. And it's not because of the cyber war shit. No, because we're having a civil war inside of ourselves because of the conflict of sides that we've chosen for each other. They're both extremist ends. The leftist versus the right. The right being the GOP Trumpsters. The left being the hated liberals. You notice we have left and right hands. For some of us are actually born with those kind of limbs, but practically speaking, this is what we're born with. The left and the right. These guys don't shake hands very well. They can interlock and do some stuff together to lift stuff up, to have something to throw, or whatever kind of tasks that we have. This is the left, this is the right. This is democratic, this is conservative. Are you getting a point? Because the point is, the left and the right, even though they will not commingle efficiently, but they do help each other out. They can interlock and create something with themselves. They can manipulate whatever things, both single but better when they're together to lift things up. Are we not getting this point? You're still not convinced. Well, that's good. Because that's the left and right brain trying to come in conflict with each other. We have a left hemisphere, a right hemisphere. The left hemisphere controls the right side portion of the body. The right side, the left side. When people have strokes, either in this portion or in this portion, it affects the other side of the body. My grandmother was like that. She had a stroke that paralyzed her left side. Only her right side was working. It was kind of hard to understand that, how that worked in the human body. Until I started learning about how the brain worked in health classes. Now, if you have to put it into political aspects here, a combined brain that balances both democratic and conservative with a connecting tissue, a connecting bridge that exchanges information back and forth. That's the middle ground. Now, technically speaking, the body could try to relearn how to do itself, but very awkward if it had to function with one brain controlling both bodies. It would have to force all the neurons necessary to do so. Technically, it could, but very costly to the body and to the brain. People just don't recommend the procedure because it happens in accidents sometimes, tragedies. We are having a political tragedy in the midst of a holiday season that should have been celebrating tragedy. We're celebrating the death of our fallen heroes who died needlessly over concepts we're arguing over constantly and redefining and changing, and then next thing we know, we're dealing with fanaticism, arguing with democracy. We are the fanatics. We're the enemy to ourselves. We wanted to get past fanaticism. Our quote-unquote greatest generation was trying to fight against fanaticism. And what happened? We're now fanatics. We're now fanatics. Because we believe in someone else's bullshit and conspiracy theory. Here's another thing. Throughout the last several years, we've had more death and more death and more death and more death happening at this point over here. We have more hatred happening. We have more anger towards racism, but we also have anger towards races. We have anger towards religion. We have a war of religion. We're having people getting bombed out, shot up, beaten up, simply put, because we can't deal with our differences anymore. We can march in the street, we can try saying this life matters or that lives matter. And we can try to be united all we can and all we want. But does it control to what's going on right now as it is? Situations happening in Los Angeles and New York and and other cities at this point over here, where if you're Jewish, you're beaten up. If you're black, you're shot to death or something. It's bad enough when we have to deal with workplace violence. If you had a problem or beef with a boss and a few other co-workers, it's always becoming commonplace where you're taking a gun and shooting them left and right. How about having a state that wants you to carry a gun all the damn time because they think the Second Amendment is the most wonderful thing over there, and carrying a gun will, quote-unquote, protect you. Of course, we'll just weaken the laws a little bit on if it's going to be right for you to shoot that gun or not, but we're going to give you the gun anyway. We want you to feel safe and secure. Are you killing people left and right? Say hello to Texas. Texas is just doing that. Texas is becoming one of those conservative country, I want to say country, because they still want their own country. They're still fighting it out in the court systems and the popular poll beliefs that they can separate and form their own country. Ain't going to happen. They did the same thing, the same concept for California. Ain't going to do it either. Once you're in with the country. There is no legal precedent. There is no legal federal law that prevents a state from forming its own country. Unless, of course, we're dealing with armed rebellion here. Which brings up one of the lunatics I was telling you about, who keeps thinking that the Second Amendment gives a person a right to do armed rebellion against the government. He has been twisting the federal law and the Bill of Rights to his own liking because maneuvering in fealty to one asshole, the 45th president, the former 45th president, who's calling all the damn shots. So now we have to bring it back to this asshole again. And the testing of our own democratic values and our democratic resolve. I'm not talking about party, I'm talking about how our country was supposed to be formed under this. It was supposed to be formed as a republic, representative republic. Republic because we have states, but forming a union. And the thing was supposed to be a democratic process where by ballot, by initiatives, each state having its own way of controlling how they're doing the voting system, but they vote in their new elected officials by majority vote. And we're supposed to be having something and have that happening in our Congress, majority votes. Even in the state houses that we have that runs the state are supposed to be done by a majority vote. But when you have a majority trying to squeeze and suffocate voting rights to only one side only, which borders on fanaticism. The Democrats in the House of Texas had the right, and had it right, of saying to the Republicans, no, you're not going to be suppressing the right to vote in any way, shape, or form. And we stop you here and now. Republicans call it integrity. No, it's not. It's called fanaticism. It's called controlling. It's called stormtroopers. We're telling you how to vote one way, our way. That's it. Bully. I'm a bully to you. Us versus them. You don't like it? Fuck you. But you still have to vote us in. Because we want to be legal about it. Well, say hello to Russia then. Yeah, you thought I was going to be bringing that one up, did you? And Communist China and every other damn socialist country out there who keeps saying the same damn thing. Who've also got it in for the democratic process that we've got here. Been trying to undermine us for decades. It still hadn't worked. Until we got the Trump, and now we've got all this damn mess to clean up. So yes, now we've got that shit happening. Yes, we had to mention Russia because Russia and its ilk out there are doing everything necessary to bring down our damn government. Any which way they can. Just to prove that they are right and the bullies are the best. I hate to tell these assholes, but it took them a long time to get up to Soviet Union because they did the bully boys, but then after decades of bringing the country to its knees, they dissolved it with a vote. Vote of no confidence by the people. So the Soviet Union is no more, but the Russian Confederation is still there. And they're still trying to hold on to the belief that they still have a union by a bully boy. Meanwhile, China is still doing its controlling factor left and right over people, over 1 billion people in their country. And the Middle East are still having their issues. Cuba still has its own constant revolution. They can't even get democracy going except to keep voting in a damn bully left and right. Venezuela tore itself apart left and right. Its problem was dealing with one particular single economy. And when the market tanked on it, everything else fell out of place. So now they've been having civil war for over 2-3 decades now. North Korea keeps having its family members shot and killed, groomed, and then shot and killed, trying to keep a political power over people. Meanwhile, South Korea is still at technical war with the North Koreans, still wondering whether or not they're actually going to see a united Korea or not. In whose lifetime? Nobody knows. But the Army is still keeping people suppressed. And they're still having issues trying to keep themselves alive. But we wonder for how long. Bringing us back to our country of the United States here. We keep saying that we are the best and we're making America great again. No, we're not. Bringing us down again. To what level was America thought of itself as the greatest country on earth? Which century, which decade was that again? Which year? I didn't catch that because we still had issues left and right. We had major issues left and right. People keep forgetting how our country was started in the first place. And they don't care to understand how it was started in the first place. You see, we have these indigenous people called Native Americans. They call themselves the people. Different nations, different tribes lived in the continent between Alaska all the way through South America. Most of them in the Central America region and the North America region, also settling up in Alaska and throughout Canada. So we have all these Native Americans, native indigenous people there. They had their own strife. They had their own issues. They had their own problems concerning about trading and territories and wars with each other. And other nations of their own kind trying to live peacefully and away from all that in different sections of the country. And then came here comes the European settlers. First, the theoretical explorers slash conquerors, bringing in death and disease and weaponry with promises. The next thing they know, they're dying off by the handful, then by the tens and 20s and 30s and 40s and hundreds and thousands. Death and disease, and also by death of musket. Those who've actually cooperated found themselves in a perpetuating cycle of being turned into the European slaves. And we thought currently we have problems with the black slaves. The Native Americans really hated us, the European natives, coming into their territory and telling them what to do. We're looking for new places to exploit, basically. And we did a very good job about it. We got the United States formed. We got Canada formed. We've got Central America. What else is there? How about decency? How about dignity? How about self-respect? How about telling these people that they were here first and we should be treating them a hell of a lot better than we were? We make promises and we still break them. The European way. We're still following the manifest destiny. Was this what our soldiers were fighting for? What was the concepts and the precepts and the notions that they were fighting for? Oh, you're going to say it. Freedom. Freedom for who and freedom for who, what? Who is it for? The elitism or for the people who are being subjugated? Because the ones with elitism is the most egotistical sons of bitches around here anyway, who think they run and rule the world with a manifest destiny, with that kind of attitude. If it was truly altruistic, if they were truly dying for altruistic methodologies and themes, they saw what cruelty man can do towards each other. Soldiers have seen that in battles. Soldiers have seen that and how other human beings who call themselves quote-unquote civilized have done such atrocious things and come back home and thinking they're in a land safe. And then they see it happen in their own damn eyes. They see it happening in the streets. They hear it happening. They see the protest marches. We want things homogenous, but we can't have it homogenous. We want things rolled one way, and we can't have it that way. The problem is there is no one right way. The left brain and right brain have to have that connecting tissue to coordinate with each other, to coexist with each other, to work with each other. Otherwise, it's all damn meaningless. And if we can't seem to find a common ground of what we're trying to accomplish here, what we're trying to do, then what the hell the whole damn point of the whole holiday is celebrating our dead what the hell is it for? What is America? What's its value? What's its meaning? What are we fighting for? What are we living for? What are we existing for? For who? For what? If we can't honestly answer that, if we can't even honestly look inside ourselves and understand that, don't start calling yourself America. Don't start wearing the red, white, and blue, and you think you understand the damn country because, buddy boy or buddy girl, and I don't care who the hell you are, you have no clue. Unless you can honestly argue with me. Honestly argue with me, either on the streets or in the chat somehow. What are we about? If you can answer any of the questions I've been posing out there, I want to hear about it. I want to know about it. I want to see if there's any common ground. I want to see how much of a knowledge gap we've got here. And I want to see just how different we've gotten it wrong and what we've gotten right. You call yourself Americans? It's not proof of the muscle. It's proof of the heart, and it's proof of the principle. And if we can't have either one, you might as well call ourselves brain dead of America, because that's all we'll ever be. You want to comment, you want to rip my ass apart, feel free. You want to see what I'm about, check out the other videos and talk to me. I don't care if you have to like them or not. Just communicate.